Welcome to my second video exploring chords in open D tuning. This time we will have a look at minor chords, and I'll base my explanation on the assumption that you're familiar with the major CAGED shapes in open D tuning. I will show you both the major and minor shapes, but if you want to understand how to transpose the CAGED system from standard tuning to open D, please check out my previous video. Now, before looking at the shapes, let's just quickly talk about a little bit of music theory. Harmonies can only be called chords if they contain at least 3 notes, so playing just 2 notes simultaneously is not a chord yet. Foundations of chords are referred to as triads for this reason. The most basic type of triads are major and minor. They are built from the first, the third and the fifth degrees of their parent scale. In case of a major chord, the parent scale is gonna be the major scale, and the minor chord builds from the minor scale. If we have a look at the C major and minor scales, we'll see that the first degree and the fifth degree is the same, and the only relevant difference in this case is the third. The minor third is 1 semitone lower. In Western music theory, it is customary to relate everything to the parent major scale, so the minor triad is usually noted as 1 B3 5, instantly bringing that lowered third to your attention. Knowing this and all the major chord shapes, figuring out the minor chord shapes are pretty easy. We just need to locate the third of the chord shapes and lower them by 1 semitone. So let's do it together. This is the C major chord shape in open D. I'm playing a C, an E, a G, and another C. C is of course the first degree, so the root of the chord. The G is the fifth, and E is the major third. So this is the one I have to lower to get minor chord from major to minor, a semitone lower. So to get that chord easily, I can just bar my index finger on the first fret. And as long as I'm barring the strings on the first fret, there is another E flat note on the first string, because that's a D string just as well as the fourth string. So 2 E flat notes an octave apart. So you can play this chord like this too, or you can omit that E flat. And of course, if you bar all 6 strings with your index finger, there's another lower E flat note on the 6th string, that's a D as well. I would advise against including that, because having another note than the root as the lowest note in a chord can throw off the harmony, and it wouldn't sound good in this case at least. So let's just stick to this. Please note that this is again a closed chord shape, so you can easily shift it around the neck. The next chord shape is A, and this is A major. I'm playing an A, an E, an A, a C sharp, and another E. And the third of the A major is C sharp. That is the 4th fret on the 2nd string. That's the one I have to lower to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string to get A minor. like that. Now if you want to move this chord around, you can do it by just skipping the open A string and just going the 4 strings. For example, if you want to go up to C, shift it 3 frets. The G shape in open D is just a fragment of the good old G chord we know in standard, and it just so happens that this one starts with the major third. That's a B note on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. We actually have 2 A strings, the 5th and the 2nd, and we fret them both on the 2nd fret, so we have 2 major thirds in this chord shape that we have to lower. The easiest way to do it is to switch your index and middle fingers. You can hear 2 open D strings ringing, namely the 4th string and the 1st string. Now the 6th string is also a D, so we could include it, but as I mentioned in my previous video, that kind of throws off the sound. I mentioned when talking about the C shape that if the lowest note of the chord is not the root, it makes it a bit unstable or throws off the harmony, but in this case we are starting with the 3rd anyways, but it definitely sounds better. If you want to move this chord shape around, you will have to rearrange your fingers once again, because this open D string will be 1 fret lower than all the other fingers are fretting. So you need to free up a finger because you can't get that with your pinky. So I rearrange them like this, and it gives us exactly the 9th chord shape from standard tuning. Now if you want to play that high 5th as well, you can just bar your index finger. I'm not sure if that's necessary, you can decide based on what context you are using this chord in. In a Western style tuning like open D, getting the E major shape is the easiest thing in the world, because actually you're retuning your strings to give you an E shape open major chord, D in this case. So to get the actual E chord, we will need to fret the 2nd fret across all 6 strings, so you can just bar that. Now we also know that the major third of the Western or open D tuning is the 3rd string, so we need to lower that by 1 fret. Now if you're Tommy Emmanuel, you can probably bar across 5 strings and then still fret 1 fret behind that bar, but I can't do it, so I basically just play a fragment of this chord shape in the minor position. Like this. You can add your thumb if you want to. But you have to pay attention to mute the 5th string, so it doesn't give you that suspended 4 sound, which A would be in E. Or you can put on a slide to get the full bar, utilizing a technique that is called fretting behind the slide. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory, but let me show you why it works. So when you're using the bottleneck, you're touching the strings, but you're not pushing the strings down to touch the fret wire. And this gives you room to take some of your fingers behind the slide and push down on a string, and that string will actually touch the fret wire. But you have to be gentle with your slide to give enough room for that string to ring between the slide and the fret wire. Of course, keep an eye out for the clean intonation. The last chord is once again D. This is the D major shape in open D, and the third of this shape is an F sharp note, which is the 4th fret on the 1st string. So we lower that to an F, 3rd fret of the 1st string to get the minor shape. Once again, if you want to shift this around, you can just use the top 3 strings. Or if you want to be fancy and want to shift 4 or 5 strings from this chord shape, you're actually gonna morph into the C shape, because if you wanna shift it, we can play this open D string. So what we can do is we can play the minor 3rd on that string. Because it is a D string, you have to fret the exact same fret as you do on the other D string, which is the 1st string. So you could do this, but if you're there, you can already morph fully into the C chord. I mean the C chord shape. It's obviously a D minor chord in this case. So this was our C shape, and this is D. I don't want to get into criticizing the CAGED system in this video too, but yes, some of the shapes can be similar. This is why I mainly use A's instead of CAGED. That's just the A, C and E chord shapes. I will probably talk more about that in the next video where I show you tried inversions with the slide on, so hope to see you there.